Don, Demian, hey, congratulations for your documentary, Dio Dreamers Never Die.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, not a problem. Well, you know what? A bigger congratulations is that this film is being showcased at South by Southwest for the 24 beats per second. I mean, how do you guys feel about that?
Feels great. You know, we love South by. We've been there a few times with some other docs early in our career. Actually, our first film didn't premiere there, but we had an amazing screening of our film Rock School in 2005. And then we were back in 2011 with a film called Last Days Here. And now we're back with Dio. So got a good run, good history with the festival. So psyched to be there.
So it's just another day to you guys with another document.
Well, it's not another day. It's a huge deal to have a film, you know, at a big film festival like that, especially this film, which I feel like is going to play really well to the Austin crowd. That's a great community, a great crowd, and I think there's going to be a lot of hopefully a lot of metalheads that come out and show their support and love for Ronnie, which would be great.
That does sound terrific. So what sparked you guys to do this documentary about Ronnie James Dio?
We got the opportunity. Kathy Dahm got in touch with us, who is the executive producer, and we always tell the story. I think Don got an email about like, what was the subject heading? Interested in a Dio?
Any interest in a Dio doc? And I think I did two things in about 0.5 seconds. One was I forwarded it to Demian, and then the other one was a response that said yes in all caps with like 1 million exclamation points. So that was how it all that's how it all started and got the ball rolling. And I think it was a project that Wendy Dio, who has been really trying to keep Ronnie's legacy alive and kind of like kind of push it out for the next generation of fans, and certainly for the fans that are already out there that are sorely in need of a Dio documentary. She's been trying to get one going for a while, and I think didn't find the right team, and luckily the stars aligned, and the email made its way to us, and we probably I'm sure, I know there's other filmmakers that are also Dio fans, but I think I'll say that like it probably went to the best two people that we're going to take this the most serious, and we did take it very serious, and it was a huge honor to be tasked with telling Ronnie's story, for sure.
So how big of the Dio fans are both of you?
Huge Dio fans. I mean, since I was a kid, 4th, 5th grade, jamming on Dio. I got The Last in Line on cassette, when you used to have to get cassettes in those long cases. You remember those? And and then, the Dio Sabbath records are epic records for us. There was a party at my house one time. I remember there was a big commotion. Some people came in. I lived in a punk house in West Philly, so there's a lot of people there. And I came out, and there was this commotion going on the porch. And there were these two dudes had a guy by his ankles hanging him over the porch. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, this guy said he doesn't like Sabbath Dio. And everybody's like, oh, cool. Let him hang, So we're big fans. We're big fans.
Yeah. Wow. So when this finally landed on your guys' lap, I mean, where did you guys want to start? To tell this story.
Well, I think a doc like this, you really have to, for us as, we've been doing docs for, almost 20 years now. And, we try to approach everything kind of the same way, which is, what's the story? What is it past, us being, obviously we're huge fans, but, we're not making a film to just kind of satisfy Dio fans. We want to first and foremost see if there's a bigger story and something that we can make a little bit more accessible to like a wider audience, and frankly expose Dio to a wider audience that might not know who he is, and they should know who he is. So, for us, it's about story and character. And, the biggest challenge I think with a film like this is that, sadly Ronnie had passed on, and, he wasn't with us any longer. So it was hard we basically have what we have in terms of archival video that was left behind, or audio tapes and photographs and things like that. So you really have to figure out how to like reconstruct Ronnie's story with given the elements that you have to work with, you know, kind of like a handful of puzzle pieces that you have to figure out how to like put together to make a complete puzzle. So it's challenging, but I think, you know, it always comes down to like, you know, what is the story here? What are we trying to say? And what do we have access to? So that was like kind of how we started out, with seeing what kind of archival video we had access to, seeing what kind of audio and photographs and things like that. And then who are the kind of core people in Ronnie's life that we can talk to get as firsthand account as possible of Ronnie, not somebody who's third, fourth, 5 times removed from who didn't know Ronnie. So we always try to find people that knew him, and that's what kind of guided us.
You know, I think you guys are nuts for taking on this project, because Ronnie Dio is such a huge, iconic musician. We're not talking about like some small, obscure band. There's probably so much footage, so many old interviews, you know, everything in the archives. I mean, how did you guys manage to narrow it down? I mean, how much work did actually, you know, just to gather all this stuff?
There's a lot of work gathering it, but then what you find too is in Ronnie's story is his career spans the entire history of rock and roll. It starts in the 50s and into the 2000s. So his career is like 4 careers for many people. So it is a dense tale, and you have to start to figure out what along that journey, what in his experiences took this man from Ronald Padavona to this mythical, legendary Dio, you know, guy. So I'll tell you what we did. We're old school, so we hit note cards in the edit room and just start sketching it out. And we put you know, the note cards up on a cork board, and you start shuffling stuff around, and it looks like, you know, I'm the Unabomber in here, you know, with like scribbling and all this stuff. But that's what we do. And we just did it. And, you know, the film, made the film, you know, over the course of this pandemic. So it got tough along those lines as well, having access to interviews and stuff like that. So it was a slog, and there were many edits, you know, probably, I don't know, maybe more so than any of our other films, I would say. Maybe. I'm not sure. It's a tough one to call, but it's a tough one to measure. But yeah.
I can totally picture that cliche wall with all the note cards and you guys shuffling everything all over the place.
Yeah.
Now, with the interview subjects, who did you specifically wanted to aim for sure, and how much convincing did you have to do for them to participate in your project?
I think that's the nice thing about, you know, it does make our job a lot easier when you can write an email to, you know, whoever and say, hey, do you want to be in a Ronnie James Dio documentary? There wasn't a lot of like no's or no thank yous, you know, because, you know, Ronnie was so loved by so many people that he was close with. So, you know, there was really, you know, we started with the kind of, you know, the lowest hanging fruit, which is, you know, obviously Wendy, you know, was married to him, his band members throughout the years, you know, obviously the guys in Black Sabbath, and then, you know, kind of trying to find, you know, the story, the people that can that bring in other elements of Ronnie's story that would only be kind of exclusive to them, like Jack Black, who, you know, on the surface is like, oh great, a celebrity that like that's talking about Ronnie James Dio, but he was actually, you know, pretty instrumental in, you know, really sharing Ronnie with the masses at large. I mean, Jack was a huge fan and obviously became a huge celebrity, and people like him that use their celebrity to kind of like, you know, figure out how to like bring their childhood heroes to the forefront, to the masses of people that like probably would never listen to Dio. So, you know, that somebody like Jack was great because, you know, he obviously kind of re-energized Ronnie in the late 2000s with, you know, the Pick of Destiny and all that kind of stuff. And you know, became very friendly with him. And you know, Tenacious D did their goof songs about Ronnie, but all that stuff is really important because we take it for granted because we're fans, but you know, there are people outside of like the normal fan base, the mainstream culture, if you will, that like, you know, Ronnie isn't like Ozzy, you know, when Ozzy basically figured out how to like permeate pop culture with his TV show, and you know, Ronnie doesn't have the same brand recognition as Ozzy, and he's not as known as Ozzy because he wasn't, you know, on a reality show, but his story is still as vital and important to tell and to share as Ozzy's. So, you know, our hope is that, you know, people will discover Ronnie that you know, didn't know anything about him, or they know a song or two and they didn't really know anything more than that. And I think that's a gift for us as filmmakers, because we're not telling a retreaded story that's been told, you know, 15, 16 times before, and we're just telling it in a new way. Like no one has told this story. So it's pretty cool to be able to like, you know, kind of share it all, you know, for the first time.
You know, I'll admit it. I was one of those people. When I hear Black Sabbath, I think of Ozzy, and you know, not being a metalhead, I'm not really, you know, familiar with this world itself. But this documentary surely opened your eyes, you know, towards all that.
Yeah.
I think that also something we strive to do, like Don was saying, is, you know, you got to boil a story down to elements that are universal. And Ronnie's story it's about music and it's about hard rock, heavy metal, but it's really about chasing your dreams. And it's really about going for broke, believing in yourself, and trying to, you know, be great at what you do, and trying to bring people along with you, you know, bring the little guy up, empower people. And it's that kind of righteousness that I also think is a theme that really works in films now, given the state of the world. You know,
like you said earlier, like he seems to have like, you know, 4 careers spanning 50 years. I mean, how did you guys want to balance it in your own documentary by telling the story as he jumped from like Rainbow to Black Sabbath to Dio?
Okay.
I mean, for us, it was about this journey of this man going from Ronald Patavona to Dio, this guy who, you know, ends up in 1986 on a stage fighting a 30-foot animatronic dragon. You know, how do you do that? How do you go from, you know, singing crooner songs in the 50s in upstate New York to being this, you know, dragon slayer, literally? So, and along the way, you see what each of his experiences in those bands did to really help create this character, this mythical character of Dio. You know, in Rainbow, they're messing with merging classical themes with hard rock that had really not been done before, and he's learning to sing and become this mage or this sage who's empowering people, you know. And Black Sabbath, it gets more mystical, more theatrical. He leans into the heaviness of that stuff. He finds that his voice works perfectly for that. I mean, and then it culminates in Dio, where all these things come together right at the perfect time in the mid 80s, where, you know, there's a scene in the film where he's making a music video, and the producer or whatever they want to make the record label wants to make a music video about teenagers in hell. And so here's this guy who's the perfect dude to be speaking to teenagers in 80s hell. He's super positive. He's super righteous. He's telling you, though, take a look at the world. Think about good and evil. Think about really what good and evil is out in the world, and make your choice and follow your dreams and move forward. And so it was the perfect timing and the culmination of a lot of experiences in these other bands that you're talking about that landed him there.
I think all of that is very, very excellent itself. But with a music documentary like this, I know that the music industry keeps the copyrights very close to their hearts. Were there struggles and challenges, you know, trying to incorporate the music into your documentary?
That's always the trick in films like this, especially with you know, bigger artists and songs that are, you know, well-known songs. And you know, we've done our fair share of music documentaries, and you know, it's always it's frankly always the ones that you think are going to be you know, the ones you think are going to be easy sometimes are the hardest, and vice versa. But yeah, I mean, we knew going into this that even with BMG behind it, you know, we needed to have kind of a healthy budget for music licensing, because you can't tell a story. Like, I personally hate like the unauthorized like documentaries out there for Led Zeppelin or whatever, and they don't play any Led Zeppelin music, or it's just like I can't, that stuff is no good, you know. So, you know, if you're going to do a film like this, you really have to get the songs. And you know, we knew that going into it. So that was like, I would say, like, you know, like very like early days figuring that out, like making sure that like we had money in the budget so we can get the songs that we needed, because you know, you can't tell a Ronnie James Dio story without the music, you know. That's just such a huge component to it. So yeah, it was, you know, these things are never easy, and there's always, you know, there's always things that you just can't ever account for that crop up. But I'd say for the most part, it was relatively smooth sailing, you know.
Wow, that's great to hear. And what was the biggest surprise about Ronnie James Dio to you guys personally? No surprises? You guys?
Oh, it's a good question. That's a good question.
Yeah. Good question.
Big surprise. I think you know, I knew versions of Ronnie James Dio of what I was like into at the time. I certainly knew his early 80s, you know, kind of solo stuff. Those were the first things I was exposed to. And then later on kind of got into the Dio era, Sabbath, and then realized, oh yeah, he was in Rainbow, and oh yeah, he had another band, Elf. And like, so like, you know, it was a great moment. I mean, I would say, I know I could speak for Dem in this, is, you know, as long as even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, and even though there was so much uncertainty on a day-to-day basis, being able to kind of come in to work, you know, every day for over, you know, for almost 3 years, and be like, get to listen to Ronnie James Dio every day and get to be a part of telling this story. I mean, it doesn't really get a whole lot better than that when, you know, you talk about like what you do for a living, and, you know, and, you know, that it was just such an incredible, you know, feeling to know that like there was a comfort in knowing like, oh yeah, you know, I get up in the morning like, and we're gonna cut Dio today. You know, we're gonna interview like Rudy Sarzo from Quiet Riot. We're gonna interview Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath, or Bill Ward. And it's just like, this is our life. Like, this is insane. Like, you have to take those moments and really like, you know, it's okay to not be cool all the time and be like, oh yeah, you know, it's like, no, it's a big deal. Like, you have to remind yourself that this is like a privilege, and this is pretty special, you know.
That is really special. So what's next up for you guys? Back to documentaries? Trying to find the next musician that you want to tackle? Maybe like Meatloaf or something?
No, Meatloaf. I like Meatloaf, the food. I don't know. I would do a Meatloaf documentary.
A Meatloaf documentary could be cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's actually, you know, something you learn is it's tough to make a film about someone who's not alive. You know, there's so many moments where we wanted to ask Ronnie a question that we hadn't found an answer to in the tapes. You know, and so I think at least for me, I would love the next project to be following someone who we have access to and can, you know, ask questions and is still with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, most excellent. Well, yeah. Gentlemen, congratulations once again for Dio Dreamers Never Die. And congratulations for everyone's going to be checking it out at South by Southwest, most definitely. Thank you for talking to us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care, man.